again, everyone. It's Cazual, and you're watching or listening to Casual Conversations. It's a video and audio podcast where we speak to people who are so very important to our world. Today, we have the person who knows pretty much a lot of stuff, or if not everything, about real estate in Central Jersey. It's Joe Peters, who's back here on Casual Conversations. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back. It's been about 3 months since we talked last.
I know 3 months, but these days, it could be 3 years. You never know, when people watch this in the future, so we're future-proofing ourselves.
Well, one of the things I try to do is not repeat what I said last time. I always listen to the last thing, so I'll point back to it if people want to know more about a certain subject rather than repeat it.
Yeah, well, we'll give links down below, and if you watch the video, wherever, YouTube, Facebook, wherever we are, everywhere, LinkedIn, and also audio podcast on Apple, on iTunes. And so people can just listen to us if they don't want to see how great we look, because we're good-looking guys here. so
it's super. You could be walking, you could be doing the dishes, you could be driving along and listen. So
absolutely true. Running, exercising, looking for a new house. You can be doing that. By the way, Joe, I know the real estate market is interesting, and I want to talk to you about that in more detail. But the Balloon Festival, which has been around for 35 years in Central Jersey, is not happening this year. And, I'm mentioning that because the head guy is called the Balloon Meister. And I always give you a fancy name when you appear on our Casual Conversation. So I think it should be the Real Estate Meister, because it's a guy who knows everything.
That's sort of a German for master. It's an interesting term. Why is the Balloon Festival not happening? Economics?
Inside, some of that. It's different. The economics change. You're taking a year to kind of reassess it. I have the inside information because I know producer Howard Freeman, and I've been involved with them a long time. So I'm sad that it's not happening. It's been canceled in the past due to weather conditions and other things, like, COVID, but they're reassessing the whole environment. I don't think they're going away. I think they're coming back to announce next year.
I know Quick Check used to sponsor it. I don't know if they still do.
NJ Lottery now does it.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can gamble while you're
I can
watching.
remember going to that, got to be 38 years ago. And they were on a Raritan Valley Community College campus, and Rocky Ioko, who was big into balloons, was actually there.
Yeah, Malcolm Forbes actually was started the whole thing.
Yeah, I remember that.
Motorcycle balloon. Actually, there's a full episode we did last year on the anniversary edition. So we'll link that up too, so you can see all the cool stuff and everything. But that's one of the things that makes Central Jersey real estate, or buying a home in Central Jersey, very more valuable, I think, because you got access within minutes to this beautiful worldwide biggest balloon and music festival, I think, in the United States.
Yep.
So let's get back to real estate. So we kind of did a warm-up, little history going back. And what do you think of the market right now?
Well, it's an interesting market because we have more inventory, and everybody said we needed more inventory. It's probably at a little bit higher price than the people that are looking for. I mean, inventory's up here and we're looking down there, but that's pretty natural. We're building inventory up at the higher price levels, and that makes it more competitive up there because there's not as many buyers. And the market, when it changes, typically starts high and moves down, and it starts east and it moves west. So right now we're in Central Jersey. We're close enough to get to New York City, but not all people are going to New York City anymore. But I see a different market in Somerset County, which stretches all the way over to Warren Watchung. And I see a different market in Hunterdon County, which stretches all the way over to the Pennsylvania border. So it depends where you're at. It's a hyper-local market. We talked about that last time, too. You hear a lot on the news that, inventory's in the crapper. I hate to use that term, but that's sort of self-describes. And it is somewhere. If you're in new homes, it's not good. I'm going to use and equate this to buying a new car versus buying a used car. We're in a used house market here, not a new house market. The reason is it costs too much to build a new house. If you're going to building a new house, you're probably touching $1 million today. Too many jurisdictions with protecting too many frogs and fish, and not worried about the people and not frogs and fish. Don't get me wrong, but we need to have first-time starter housing built and we don't. And if you go down to Texas, they're building plenty of brand new. In Florida, the same way. New construction at 375 and it's selling like hotcakes. Well, our new construction's non-existent unless you get up into the $900,000 range. So we're building where we don't have buyers. There's some buyers that wouldn't be building. And then secondly, the buyers are having this affordability crisis. We talked a little about it last time, but I drew up a scenario which I thought would help us understand it a little better. Now, before I go through that scenario, I went back 4 years, which was the start of COVID, and I looked at Hunterdon County and I looked at Somerset County. 4 years ago, the average price in Hunterdon County was $450,000. Somerset County, $450,000. This year, it's $680,000. That's 50% more.
Wow.
4 years ago, the average price that was Hunterdon County. Somerset County is $520,000 and $765,000. So Somerset County's always been 20% higher than Hunterdon County because it's closer to New York. But both of them have moved up since the beginning of COVID, since June of 2020. COVID started March 13th, if I remember. We've gone up 50% in prices. And at the same time, interest more than doubled. Now, if you've ever looked at the pie of where your payment goes, most of your payment is going to interest. There's 4 parts to your payment: principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Every one of these is a problem. The principal is the only one that's really not moving a lot, but less of it's going to principal and more of it's going to interest. Probably 90% of your first payment goes to interest. The taxes have gone up and insurance is very expensive. So let me give you a real life example. I've got a couple, imaginary, both came out of college 3, 4, 5 years ago. One of them's earning $75K and one of them's earning $60K. They earn $135,000 between us. The rule of thumb up front says 26% of your gross should go towards housing. That's the 4 things I talked about: principal, interest, taxes, and what was the 4th one? Insurance. If we took 26% of $135,000 on a monthly basis, we're at about $2,900. $2,900 based on this proportion is all you can comfortably do. Now, we're seeing it move up. We're seeing people get up into the mid-30s, but if you look at the guys that talk about how to invest, are still saying 26% up front, 36% back end. Now, what's the difference between upfront? Upfront is that's just what's going to your housing. 36% is everything else in: your car, your student debt, your credit cards, and that's all you should be spending because you need the rest for investments and health insurance, groceries, day-to-day living, utilities, these costs. So if we took a couple earning $135,000, they would be able to spend about $2,900 a month. But before they get to the $2,900 a month, about $1,000 of it disappears. Taxes, $7,500 divided by 12, that's about $625. Homeowners Association, because you're probably going to be buying into if taxes are low, it's because you have a homeowners association. If you don't have a homeowners association, it's in your taxes. That's another $350, $375 for a homeowners association. And then insurance. Insurance is off the wall. They don't want to write new policies. Right now, if your roof is more than 15 years old when you buy the house, it's uninsurable. So an insurance policy on a house that used to cost $50, $60 a month is now $150, $60 a month. So I put $100 in. You take $6.25 for your taxes, $375 for your homeowners, and you take your insurance $100. So you take $1,000 off the $2,900. Now you have $1,900. $1,900 can only buy you a $300,000 house.
That's pretty sad. I mean,
yeah. You're making $135,000 and you can only afford a $300,000 house. And guess what the biggest problem is? We don't have $300,000 houses. I just told you the average price in Hunterdon County is $680 and the average price in Somerset County is $765. So what happens? The first thing that happens, and we're going to stay on this affordability, and you can go deeper in my last session, is you start to spend more betting on the fact that you'll be earning more next year than this year, and you probably will. And you're also thinking the house will grow in appreciation, and you could probably cash out at some point in the time. That's kind of dangerous because now you're eating your children, but whatever. People do it. I've done it. We're in this catch-22 is that it's hard to find an affordable house in New Jersey, especially in Hunterdon and Somerset County, because we're not witnessing what we're seeing on the news. In Somerset County, we have 1.33% turnover. In other words, the months on market is 1.1 1/3. Average month on market when prices are going up is 4 or lower. So we're 1/3 of the high water mark on prices are going up. In Hunterdon County, it's a little worse. It's just under 2%. So we're 2 to 1 instead of 3 to 1. In both of these cases, prices are still going up, and prices are probably going to go up this year. We're saying on a national level, 4 to 6%. I think Hunterdon and Somerset County is going to be more like 8 or 9%. They went up 11% last year, and we said the same numbers last year. By the way, we're now halfway through. We're done with June, so we're at the halfway mark. We have a little more information.
Well, hold up, Joe. So, I mean, you hear economy is not doing well. All those stories behind it. People, yes, there are people getting jobs. They expect increase next year. How do you counter all that? I mean, rentals is one option, but you're basically, some people say you're throwing your money away because it doesn't stay. You give it, then that's it. You have nothing left afterwards, no equity. Right. So what's a young person to do?
If you go get an apartment, you're going to spend almost the same amount per month, and you're not going to get any of it back. Right. If you go and put 10% down and buy a house, 90% of it is going at that 6 or 8%. So next year, 100,000 every 100 you put in as purchase price, you're going to get 107, 108 back. You're getting that appreciation. You go to pay rental, that's all you got. As a matter of fact, if it's a little cheaper, then you use that money for something else. You're going on vacation. You're not accumulating. It's a trap. Talk about the American dream. Little white picket fence, walk the town, kind of Cape Cod or ranch. First of all, they don't exist anymore. They're too small by today's standards. But secondly, we don't have any to sell you. You're going to have to wind up spending for your first house in Hunterdon and Somerset County in excess of $500,000.
$500,000, huh? Wow.
$500,000. So you probably don't qualify.
Well, Joe, pause for a second. Joe, I just want to remind everybody we're listening or watching Joe Peters on the Casual Conversations and jpeters.com, where you can see more information about Joe Peters, and real estate expert here. And also you can call him at 908-304-4660. Yeah, and here's some of the other stuff that Joe's involved with. He's a very community-minded person, and he does a lot within the community in Central Jersey. So reach out to Joe. Okay.
Yeah, and both Hunterdon and Somerset County have gone through the leadership programs, which are year-long courses where you spend one day a month going through government, going through social services, going through law enforcement, to the point where I understand and know the people in the county. I just attended the Hunterdon County kickoff meeting, and the Somerset County one is coming up. Involved, have a lot of people on my podcast from both counties. So how is the market doing? In general, we have more housing, but we have it higher where it needs to be, or where people would like it to be. Mm-hmm. Secondly, we're selling less houses because the people at the affordability level can't find something to buy. So we're sitting with, and I'll just give you some statistics on this. We're sitting with, in Somerset County, 456 units for sale. Last month we had 403, so we picked up 53 units. Last year we had 371, but last month we sold 269. The month before we sold 259. Last year we sold 209. So things aren't too bad. You look at the same numbers in Hunterdon County, we got 268. We had 238 last month, 187 the year before total inventory. But the sales in Hunterdon County, 138, where last month we sold 100, 79, and the year before we sold 164. So sales aren't doing any better. Inventory is increasing, and what if you are looking at it, the balloon is getting bigger. We're getting more inventory at the higher price points, but the average time to sell is remaining about the same, and the houses that we're selling is dropping a little because we're out of price on the affordable housing.
Joe, do you still see a lot of this crazy bidding that was going on? I see some news stories that some homes are just crazy up the prices in certain areas only, like, or is that kind of stabilized?
We're seeing, it depends on the area and it depends on the price point. At the higher the price point, the less you're going to see, no matter where you go. There's less buyers up there. But the more popular areas in Somerset County, our popular areas are Bridgewater, Warren, Watchung, the Hills, Hillsborough. That concatenates or touches in Hunterdon County, their popular areas, which are Reddington, Raritan, which is in effect surrounding Fleming and Flemington, Clinton Township, Clinton. Those areas sell a lot quicker than any place else in the county. Both of those areas sell 50 to 60% of the entire county properties, because that's where people want to live. And that's where they, because of that, built more houses. So there's more dense, there's more houses there. But if you look at, does it favor sellers or buyers? Once again, you're under 4 months supply. Once again, you're at 1.3 in Somerset and 2 in Hunterdon. So you very much are in a seller's market, and it's favoring sellers because of that. If you get up above $1 million in either one of those, maybe $1.2 million in Somerset and $1 million in Hunterdon, it changes to be more of a buyer's market because there's more houses for sale than we have buyers. So what is the definition of inflation? Inflation is too many dollars chasing too few goods. It works the same way in housing. It's a supply and demand. We have too many buyers chasing too few houses. And if you're in a popular area and in a popular price point, it's still pretty nuts. But if you're getting above price point in either area, and if you get out of those popular areas, it's more normal. I would say in general, in one sentence, we've got more inventory and we're normalizing. But normalizing from the top down, we probably have more like 4 months supply and $1 million in both counties. And we probably have more, the right proportion of buyers where it's taken 4 to 6 months to sell a house. But in Somerset County, it took 22 days to sell a house last month. And in Hunterdon County, it took 35 days to sell a house last month. It's not slowing down in the popular price points. So it's favoring sellers. Will that change? Yes. As we get more and more inventory, we will get more and more normal. It will probably take a year for that to happen. I don't see what we're in the middle of right now changing rapidly. I see it changing gradually. So there's 3 factors. Price, we already talked about prices. Prices are out of sight. Will they drop? Eventually, if we don't have enough buyers, they will drop. It's supply and demand. But the second point is we need inventory, we need prices that they can afford, and we need interest rates where they can afford to make the payment. I don't see the interest rate situation changing in the next 6 months, first of the year. And why do I say that? Well, every month we hope we're going to get another price cut, and every month it doesn't happen. And every month we keep seeing things like consumer price indexes and unemployment. We're sitting at 4.0 unemployment. We haven't had 4.0 unemployment since COVID. And everybody runs around saying what a good job we're doing. Well, we're not doing a good job. It's the way you look at those numbers. When we say we put 300, first of all, it takes 175,000 new jobs a month to employ the people that turned 18. So take 175, what number you see. The second thing is, what are the new jobs? Are they full-time jobs or are they part-time jobs? One analysis I saw on the last report of 331,000 new jobs in May, we're going to get the June report next Friday, said that if you took all the part-time jobs out of it, we lost jobs. We lost about 16,000 jobs on the entire thing. And the reason is inflation is eating into the budget so bad that people are double dipping. They're going back, they're getting a part-time job to help make the bills. And this is some of the job growth that we're seeing. But we're not going to see the Fed lower the Fed rate until they get inflation down closer to 2%. Inside of 2%, it was 2 point something last month, but the month before it was free, and I wouldn't be surprised if this month it creeps up a little, but we'll see. The numbers will come out shortly. When the Fed, how do we figure out what the interest rate is? Well, the Fed has a rate. Right now it's 5.5, I believe. So you're 5.25 or 5. You take the Fed rate, and they use that to calculate the 10-year bond, Treasury rate, I should say. The 10-year Treasury rate right now is 4.4%. You take whatever the 10-year rate is each morning and add 2 points to it. That's the vig that they cost to get a mortgage done. There's a lot of people feeding out of that pot. But 2.7 and 4.4 is 7.1. That's where we're at. We're at a 7.1%, 7.2% interest rate this morning. We dipped down just under 7 late last month, but it went right back up. And you can see some programs out there that are attractive. Like I see one on television. I won't mention who it is, but one of the golf matches says, if you buy your house through us and mortgage it through us, we'll give you this much money back. I'm not sure by state that you're allowed to even say that, but they say it on national TV, so they must be. There's some pricing out there, but quite honestly, you have to qualify in that 26 to maybe 35% on your front end, and on the back end, no more than 45% to be able to afford a house. So if you're trying to figure out, I remember when I was a kid trying to buy the first house, I said, use about 2.5 times your salary. Well, it's not 2.5 times your salary anymore. You have to almost spend 4 times your salary to buy a house. And that means you have less discretionary money.
Hey, Joe?
Yep.
Sit up a little bit. People want to see you close. You've been relaxing a little too much. Okay.
I'm sitting here peeking at my notes and
because I think
it'll make like an air balloon going down.
Yeah. So let's NAR, is that what you call it? These new rules of real estate. Let's get some details.
We know more than we did 3 months ago. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold up a chart, and this chart shows that you've got 4 quadrants. You've got a buyer side and the seller side, and in effect, it's probably
hold it up again, Joe.
Let's try it again. If you were on the buyer's side,
see the bottom. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's say at a 6% commission, just to have round numbers. It's usually not that, but 6%. The buyer's agent gets free and the seller's agent gets free, and they each split it with their agency. So the agency gets 1.5 and they get 1.5. That's simple math. It's 5.5. It's 5. It's a little harder to do. I use whole numbers. Now, what happened up until this new law got put into effect, and it's still not in effect. It's going to go into effect, I think it's August 17th or 21st. The seller used to dictate how much the buyer would pay or get commission-wise, the buyer's agent. So the seller, they said, why is the seller dictating what the buyer agent gets? That doesn't sound right. We want to change it. So what they did was they passed a law that said instead of the seller signing up to do 6%, 3% to my agents, 3% to the other, I'm only going to dictate what my agent gets, and in effect, the buyer's agent has to negotiate it with his buyer. So now here's a buyer. It's already got a trouble buying a house. And the seller said, and it'd be ill-advised to do this, I'm not going to pay anything. Well, now the buyer has to pay the 3% on top of what they're already not affording to pay. So there's 4 scenarios that come out of it. And I've got a little bit, where did they go? There it is. So the first thing you do as an agent with a buyer is you get them to sign a form, and you say to that buyer, I bring a lot to the table. I don't work for free. I'm just like you. I've got to feed the kids, and here's what I get. And I get 3%. And if somehow the seller is not paying the 3%, I expect you to pay the 3% or the portion that the seller's not paying. So there's 4 scenarios. The seller could say, I'll pay it. And that's a smart seller, because in effect, you don't want this to be part, and I'll tell you why at the end, of the buyer's decision. Or the seller could say, I'm only going to pay 1.5 of it and let the buyer pay the other 1.5. Well, that's easier than the 3, but it's still a burden on the buyer. Or the seller can say, I'm not paying anything, but it's negotiable. Include it in the contract. And we'll start to see some of that coming, as I'm willing to give you $500,000 for your house, but I want you to pay 3% of that $500,000 as to pay my buyer agent's commission. And by law, we have to do this. This is the new law. Most of the times we didn't make a buyer sign. Or the seller can say, I'm paying nothing. And that's the worst scenario, because that's throwing most of it back on the buyer's back. So I just did a seller consultation explaining how this worked. And I said, now, the thing you don't know, I cannot steer a buyer. If a buyer comes to me, I have to show them all houses as described that are in a market. If you're not paying the commission, I can't hide that from them unless they tell me to. They still have the right to say, I'm willing to pay you 3% if, in effect, the seller's not going to pay it. But don't show me any houses where I have to do that. That's not steering. That's a buyer's jurisdiction. And you can make it as intricate as you want. So we had a complicated market. And I think I said last month, it's like an auditor showing up after the battle. They start shooting the wounded.
Oh my God! What do you come up with these examples? we got 2 minutes left. We got 2 minutes left, so wrap it up, and I have some rapid fire questions for you.
Not a problem. So it's gotten a little more complicated, but now you've got the buyer negotiating a commission and the seller negotiating, and this is where you need the experience of an experienced realtor, somebody who's done this hundreds of times before.
All right, let's go with rapid fire question.
Okay.
This is from the crack staff here at Casual Conversations.
The crack staff. With an ED or just a crack?
What's the best age to buy your first house?
Well, I don't know if it's the best, but the average right now is about 35, 36 years old. As quick as possible.
Would you buy an older house or a newer house, a new build if there are any, as you said?
Well, in New Jersey, it's sort of decided for you. There is no new construction at the point a first-time buyer can afford it. So you're going to get into an older house, and when you get into an old house, you got to be careful that you're not buying a maintenance nightmare. And maintenance could be in several things. It could be that the pipes are old, the electricity is old, it's going to need a new roof. It could be that the lawn takes a lot of maintenance. So it looks nice when I drive up, but he's spending $300 a month just to get the grass cut. So you need an agent that's going to point this out to you.
Wow, you're very good. You passed the test in rapid fire. Okay. So I always ask this question. I'm asking anyway because you've asked it so many nice ways in the past. What's it like being a guest back here on Casual Conversations and talking real estate?
Yeah, I enjoy it because it gets me to pull my thoughts together. It gets me to give you some things that we probably didn't talk about last time. I always try to listen to our last time so we're not being repetitive. And it gives me a forum to talk to the general public who may not know me, or in a case somebody does know me and they see posted on my social media, there's a new podcast with Joe Peters explaining today's market. It's a great forum to exchange information. And it's working for me. I wouldn't be here doing it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Joe Peters. Joe Peters, jpeters.com. And the phone number again on top there. Why don't you say the phone number?
908-304-4660. And I have market reports for both Hunterdon and Somerset County. And if you want jpeters.com/MR for market reports, you'll go to that page and you can look at these market reports. You can sign up for them and get them each month, as well as podcasts like this.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you, Kaz.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.